Hey, Stickles. What's this?
I don't know.
I don't know. And it is July 20th, 2022, 107 degrees Fahrenheit. And we are going off on our adventure today. So inside the car, it's reading at 116 degrees Fahrenheit. It's 110 Fahrenheit now, and I am using basically our air conditioning seats on both of them. You can see right there, and we're dealing with a very hot day today. Could have broke some records. So, I've been still working on the Heist movie. And I know I said in one scene where Norton comes in, flies in the chopper over NASCAR. NASCAR's going on at the Texas Motor Speedway whenever the motorcyclists arrive. That way they can just kind of blend in. So it could be possible what I'm writing originally is not what it's coming out to be, and that's a good thing, because it's, what happens is it progresses. And what I find is I throw out these ideas that maybe even start a little absurd or abstract, not abstract or absurd, maybe just kind of almost phony, and then they start to concrete when I watch other work. It starts to dry, and it starts to become more concrete and more detailed and more real. So the engravings are still the target, and it's still a militia group per se. Don't know if all the thieves know that. But the head thief, which I originally cast as Brad Pitt, who is known as the Wahlberg, because they all use movie star aliases, kind of like how Quentin Tarantino used Mr. Pink, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Orange. And that became very common in a lot of other heist movies to a certain degree. And he probably got that from another heist movie, or what they say, caper movie. Now in this case, they do have separate names, but it's not only so that they can have an alias with each other and not know who each other are on their own name, so they can't turn each other in, but also so that it kind of throws off outside sources if they're texting or if they're communicating, because it takes place in modern day, current day. They have smartphones. It's all current day. Now, the heist goes down, and it's neat to see it. It's neat to see how they get in. They have inside guys working at the Federal Engraving in Fort Worth. They've got all of that worked out. Where I wanted Josh Brolin. I went ahead and decided to use Josh Brolin. I think that's a good casting choice. He plays a guy that's working on the docks, and also he's kind of like a janitor service within the engravings place. He's had the job for a while. But he had kind of a checkered past, was able to sponge a lot of it, but knew some people that were in the crime syndicate and found out about this score and was brought on. He was kind of one of the main reasons. Now, he actually does know the head thief, and all the other thieves don't know each other. But the head thief is known as the Wahlberg, which is actually played by Brad Pitt. Regardless, you'll get into all of that. Remember, there's the Wahlberg, the McConaughey, and eventually there's Norton, who's the hacker, like Norton Antivirus. And there's also the Cooper, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I also cast it's weird because they all kind of change places. Ryan Gosling is one of them too. So it's 5 total thieves. And they all have character traits and everything. Gosling plays the Cooper. So there is one called the Cooper because Bradley Cooper is actually the Norton Antivirus. I'm now calling him Norton Antivirus. That just makes it easier to tell the story. So Norton Antivirus is his code name. These are really big code names, you know, kind of things. The McConaughey, Norton Antivirus, the Wahlberg, okay, and then you've got another thief that is, okay, so you have Brad Pitt as the Wahlberg, you have Edward Norton, who plays the McConaughey. He's the dorky one that likes Daniel Johnston, listens to weird music, he likes to read a lot, kind of dorky. Josh Brolin plays a character that's the janitor in the engraving one. Ryan Gosling plays the Cooper. So he would check in places and stuff or text as under the Cooper. You got Edward Norton, that when he escapes, he takes off on this tricycle motorcycle thing that goes hauling ass really quick. It ends up flying, so he actually flies to New Mexico. Okay, none of them are aware of this. The hacker, who's played by Bradley Cooper, is known as Norton Antivirus. He basically sends out a message that says, "Don't chase the thieves, or you will be shot down." And that's some of them carry surface-to-air missiles on the motorcycles. Most all of them have motorcycles. They have these little wagons behind the motorcycles that they cart the loot in, and they're all basically ripping off an engravings building. They do get cash too. They do take cash too. But also there's decoy robberies around the area, so that will throw them off. A total of 3 banks are hit, and then the engravings place all at the same moment, right around, pretty much around the height of rush hour traffic. Now, eventually, it also leads to NASCAR, Texas Motor Speedway, and there's a NASCAR event going on. So once they get there, just like in Drive, the main character gets to the basketball game and it kind of disappears. That's how they do. They get there, and there's this huge gathering of basically people that they can get lost in. Now, smoke bombs are admitted during a lot of the chase and stuff. Here's how some of the tote gets carried around. In one aspect, or one moment, they're hauling butt down the, I guess that's 35, or one of the highways that leads to the speedway. And they launch a smoke bomb. They slow down. They're pretty much in traffic. There's like a huge concert, NASCAR, all that's going on, so there's traffic. They slow down into the smoke bomb. So one of the motorcycles goes in the smoke bomb. They get out, take the loot, the engravings, they put it into a car that's already, slowed down into traffic. Then that person gets into the vehicle and they take off within the vehicle, and the motorcycle's left behind, just in case if there was a chopper chasing. Once they get to the speedway, there's a big event that happens with the chopper. That's supposed to happen. It's part of the show. That's where the concrete, detailed stuff goes in. It's supposed to be like a real thing that happens, like an event with a chopper. That's Norton Antivirus, who I wanted Bradley Cooper to play, who would be flying down the chopper to pick up, probably most likely, Josh Brolin's character. They had changed that a little bit. The reason why is because I'm having Norton, Edward Norton, who is basically riding the tricycle motorcycle that can fly, and he plays the McConaughey. Because I just picture Edward Norton go, what, I'm the McConaughey? He's flying, and he flies off. So that's how they track him, is through his flight. Because they track him through satellite. They didn't think they could do that, but they do that later on. FBI does. Because every robbery that's a bank robbery is investigated by the FBI. Okay, so we got that taken care of. So we got Edward Norton, who plays the McConaughey, out in basically New Mexico area. He flew there, so he flies there. You got the head one, which is the Wahlberg, played by Brad Pitt, who gets into the vehicle and takes off. Probably they pick him up in the chopper somewhere else, so that they all kind of get in a chopper. Okay, it kind of ends on a high note, but it also starts on a high note. So what happens is he goes down in the show, and there's smoke everywhere, and they get picked up, meaning the chopper picks them up, like goes down. It's part of the show. The crowd's cheering. I'm trying to take this a little bit from Stir Crazy, because they're criminals within kind of a moment where the crowd is cheering, everybody's happy, all this stuff, and you think, these guys are great, but they're actually part of a crime. And they get on the chopper, they fly off, and everyone's cheering, yay, yay, fireworks are going off, and it's supposed to have done that way. They just use that as a vehicle to get out. That's two of the thieves. That'd be the anti-Norton virus, or the Norton antivirus, played by Bradley Cooper, and then the other guy, Josh Brolin. They both leave the stadium, or the NASCAR arena, and fly off. They go to their safe ground with their camp. He drops off one, he drops off the other one. One goes north, one goes south, one goes east, one goes west. Okay. Now, here is the rub of the story. It starts off on a high note, but that's not where the story is. The story is when they're camping, because that's the second act, kind of. Well, I wouldn't even say it's a second act. I'd say it's kind of like leading into the end of the act one. But they all set up their own independent inciting action, the inciting incident. Okay, so they all set up their circumstances and their inciting incident when they're in each one of those camps, right, where they land, the little place or wherever they drive to or whatever. So they all four. And the reason why Bradley Cooper, he's kind of headquarters, so he stays on the underground. Alright, so we're out right now. I'm about to drop my mask here. Restaurant Dunkin's Donuts right here. It is National Hot Dog Day. So today there's a hot dog in there. It's not your average hot dog. It took them quite a bit of time to get it out. Not too bad. Pretty good. I got the Diet Coke right here. The car was reading 116. The temperature is about 109. So if you get the proper paperwork and everything, you can go to this place right here and get yourself a cash car. It's right off Trinity Boulevard. Tons of cars there. People buy them like crazy. They're cash cars as cheap as $100, up to maybe a few thousand. There's more over there because they auction them off. Some start at $100 and work their way up, depending on if they're going to trash them or not. It's actually serious. I think this is actually something else though right here. I don't know what it's something else. But anyway, there is an auction place to get a car. This looks like a flight training helicopter facility, or it's just actually a pad that they land at right here. And this is something like this would probably be set up, not necessarily the pad, because you don't have to land on, they're not landing on that particular pad. They could if they wanted to, but it'd be something similar to that in NASCAR, because they can land on some of the buildings and that on NASCAR and stuff. You can see the chopper landing right there, how quick that takes place. Be smoke all over the place. Then the Josh Brolin's character gets in the chopper, and then the Norton antivirus is flying it. The code name is Norton the antivirus right there. You can see the pad and all that stuff right there. This is right off Trinity and Green Belt Road. Or Boulevard, sorry, Boulevard. Greenbelt Boulevard. That's Trinity Boulevard. So two boulevards right here. The Greenbelt Boulevard is a technical, for all you technicalities. Right here is the chopper landing thing. It's one of them. It's a little field they created to land choppers. Okay, so yeah, they do use water to escape too, and I'll get to that. Okay, so not too far, there is a place called, well, there's Trinity River, but there's also other rivers and things like that too that can lead to what's called a lake deep enough to have an underwater facility that'd be like a submarine or whatever. Remember, this is kind of a twofold thing that the militia leader wants to do, which is played by well, Brad Pitt plays him, but the name of the character is called the Wahlberg. He wants to show the U.S. government the power of the militia. So one of them does escape on kind of like a jet ski, and they see him. Then he goes underwater into an underground facility that's set up kind of like a submarine. That actually is a smaller submarine that they can move around at the bottom of the lake throughout the night. So if they surround the lake and everything, he's got enough sonar and stuff to know exactly where they would be and where they wouldn't be. And he's under there for the whole night or so. Or you think that he is. Really, he gets out on another side of the lake and gets on the tricycle motorbike that also turns into a glider. Now, the reason why the FBI continues to search is because he actually does fly off. So they show more of their power. And he flies off into the air, and then he lands in the canyon somewhere in New Mexico, and that's how they trace it from satellite. and then that's a whole separate story. Now, the separate part, or the second part of the actual story is explaining how they deal with the camping situation. Because remember, they camp for months on their own. So they're outlaws, basically running from FBI, anybody that investigated a bank robbery. This is more like a robbery from a facility. The other banks were only hit for, you know, a few $100 or $1,000 or something like that. Those still have to be investigated too. So it kind of stumps the investigation a little bit, because there's 3 of them that are robbed simultaneously, and then there's the engravings that are robbed. That's the big investigation, and that's what they want to reclaim, because it costs them a lot of money. So they they are all connected communication in a different way. They do break communication, so whenever the actual robbery takes place, they don't communicate with any type of device, not even CBs. They already know what to do, where they're going to meet up and everything. They already know their back plans, and you see some of that. So it's told not necessarily in flashback, but it's told, some of it can be told out of sequence. So you get chapter 16 when you're like on chapter 3, and then you, instead of going to chapter 4, you go into chapter 16 or whatever, and then go back to chapter 4, you know, that kind of thing. But basically, this is later on, he arrives, and this would be played by Edward Norton, who is playing the McConaughey. The character's name is called The McConaughey. And he arrives in the canyons of New Mexico. Now, that is the one character that the head Texas Ranger does not chase after, who is played by Matthew McConaughey, or I'd like him to play it. He does not chase Edward Norton because that's out of Texas. He goes to New Mexico. So he stays only in Texas because he's a ranger. But he's the one that solves the case, and he realizes it's part of the militia. Now, the FBI will trace, they try to trace all of it, especially the New Mexico one, because he flew, you know, breaking certain aviation laws, but he also, we don't know which one has the engravings. And those will be shipped off to probably the highest bidder or whatever to help fund the militia army, or the Southern Militia Army, or whatever the, I would probably call it the Southern Militia Army, because we're dealing with New Mexico and we're also dealing with Texas. So basically, that's how that happens. All 4 of the stories have their own, you know, plots and subplots and stuff, because they all 4 go to different places. Remember, one goes north, one goes south, one goes west, and one goes east. So in their encampments, they have their own little stories that they run across different people. It could turn into a series. It could be. But right now, it's just basically a movie. Right now, it's just basically just a movie right now. But anyway, it's got a little bit. I would say there's a little bit. I'm taking a little bit from not really Hell in the High Water, because that was more kind of like a hometown. Like these guys trying to save their land and stuff. And that, of course, is the Pascal writer. He went to the same high school as I went to, Taylor Sheridan. He also did Sicario, whatever, however you pronounce it, whatever, you know, the whole thing with Benicio del Toro. But it's got that kind of thing on it. And you gotta realize I've also met Benicio del Toro too. The whole complex right there, that whole office is run by solar power. so here's the new bridge. I'm calling it the Trinity Boulevard Bridge, but it leads right into Fort Worth. Doesn't have an exit number yet. But that, meaning if I was headed straight this way, and that bridge was not there, I don't even really know if I could take Trinity Boulevard to go that way to really get back on 820. This will sweep right into 820 from going in this direction. That one's already built. I've already taken that one. See that car? Kind of see it right there. Another car going by about right there. That one's active. This one right here is also going to sweep in going into downtown Fort Worth. So if you were trying, let's say if that wasn't there, you'd have to go all the way down past freaking Glenview or over there by Pipeline, U-turn it, come all the way back around, then wait in traffic also. So it's gonna express them there quicker going into the downtown Fort Worth area if you have to, you know, make a turn, because you'd have to go all the way down this way, which is the way I'm going now. You'd have to, now one time I think you could exit right here. You still can, but they got a block. No, they have it open. So right here, you can exit right here, and then you can cross over this highway or this bridge, or you'll cross onto that bridge over the highway, and then you turn it that way back to Fort Worth. So that'll express it. It'll be an express bridge, blah blah blah.